There's a move so quiet, so understated, that most women never even realize they have it, and the men who feel it, they can't explain why it works. They just know that something shifted, something changed, and suddenly they're thinking about you more, reaching out more, trying harder, not because you begged, not because you gave more, but because you did something that most women in today's dating world have completely forgotten how to do. You pulled back, you got quiet, and in that silence, you became magnetic. Now I know what you're thinking. Steven, that sounds like playing games, and I get it, I really do. Because we've all been told the same thing. Be open, be available, be communicative, be expressive. Chase connection. Don't let pride get in the way of love. And all of that sounds beautiful, right? In theory. But here's what nobody tells you. Here's what the popular advice leaves out. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do in a relationship isn't to speak louder. It's to go quiet. Not out of anger, not out of manipulation, but out of a deep, settled knowing of who you are and what you're worth. That's what we're talking about today. Welcome to Love Psychology Secrets, the channel where we go beneath the surface of dating and relationships and talk about what's actually happening, not just what looks good on a motivational poster. If you're new here and you're someone who takes love seriously, who wants to understand the psychology behind attraction, connection, and real partnership, subscribe right now, hit that notification bell, and give this video a like. If you're already feeling where this is going, I promise you by the end of this video, something is going to click for you. Let's get into it. Let me start by telling you what this video is not about. This is not about manipulation. This is not about playing hot and cold to mess with someone's head. This is not about making someone suffer so they want you more. If that's the energy you came in with, I need you to let that go right now, because that kind of behavior doesn't build love. It builds anxiety. It builds trauma bonds. And it builds relationships that collapse under the weight of their own dysfunction. What we're talking about today is something entirely different. We're talking about a genuine psychological shift, a shift in how you see yourself, how you carry yourself, and what you silently communicate to the people around you. And when that shift happens, something real changes, not just in how he treats you, but in how you experience yourself. That's the distinction most people miss. They try to use silence as a tactic. They try to pull away as a strategy, and it never quite lands the way they hoped, because he can feel the difference. He can feel whether your distance is coming from power or from pain. And trust me, only one of those makes him lean in. Here's the thing people get wrong about this whole make him chase you conversation. They think it's about doing less. It's not. It's about being more grounded, more certain, more settled in yourself. Because here's what nobody wants to say out loud, and I'm going to say it anyway. A lot of women who are desperately trying to hold someone's attention are doing so because somewhere deep down they've given that person more value than they've given themselves. And that energy radiates. It's invisible, but it's palpable. People can feel it without being able to name it. And men, particularly men who have options, men who are discerning, men who are paying attention, they feel it immediately. Think about it like this. You walk into a room and there are two people selling the same product. One of them is desperate for the sale. They're hovering. They're talking too much. They're following you around. They're offering discount after discount before you've even asked. The other one, they're calm. They know what they have. They answer your questions. They're genuinely helpful, but they're not chasing you. They don't need you to buy. And paradoxically, that's the one you trust more. That's the one you're more likely to buy from. That's the one who makes you feel like the product is actually worth something. The same principle applies to attraction. Not because people are products, they're not, but because confidence, self-assurance, and groundedness are universally magnetic. And when a woman embodies those qualities, something in a man's psychology responds to it, whether he wants it to or not. So let's break this down. Let's talk about what this silent power move actually looks like in practice, because I don't want to give you theory without application. I want you to walk away from this video with real understanding, real tools, and a real shift in how you see yourself in your relationships. The first angle I want to address is what I call the energy of arrival. And this one is foundational, so stick with me here. Every relationship has an energy dynamic. Think of it like two people standing on a seesaw. When one person is leaning hard into the relationship, always initiating, always reaching out, always the one making plans, always emotionally available at a moment's notice, the other person naturally leans back. It's not always conscious. It's not even always intentional, but it happens. It's psychological gravity. When something comes easily and abundantly, human beings, men and women alike, begin to take it for granted. Not because they're bad people, but because that's just how our minds work. We assign value based on scarcity and perceived worth. Now, here's where a lot of women get it backwards. When they feel that emotional distance growing, when they feel him pulling back, their instinct is to lean in harder, to text more, to show up more, to give more love, more affection, more effort. And I understand that instinct completely. It comes from a good place. It comes from caring. But what it communicates underneath all that love and good intention is anxiety. It communicates, I am afraid of losing you. And unfortunately, that fear becomes the very thing that pushes him further away because it shifts the energy dynamic even more dramatically in the wrong direction. I was talking to someone recently, a woman who came to me absolutely exhausted. She'd been in a relationship for 2 years and she said, I feel like I'm the only one trying. And I asked her, what does that look like? And she described it. She was initiating every conversation. She was making plans for the weekends. She was the one checking in, the one expressing feelings, the one bringing up the future. And he was responding, just responding, never initiating, never driving, just along for the ride. And she was pouring herself empty, trying to keep this thing alive. And I told her something that stopped her cold. I said, you haven't given him a reason to row. She was doing all the rowing. The boat was moving. He didn't need to pick up an oar. The moment she put hers down, he had a choice to make. And in that choice, everything became clear. That's the first part of the silent power move, recognizing when you are doing so much that you've removed the other person's opportunity to show up. It's counterintuitive, I know. It feels like the loving thing to do is to keep giving. But real love requires two people rowing. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do is put your oar down and see if he picks his up. Now let's talk about the second angle. And this one goes deeper. This is about what I call the psychology of the unavailable woman. And before you bristle at that word unavailable, hear me out, because I don't mean cold. I don't mean closed off. I don't mean emotionally unavailable in the toxic sense. I mean genuinely full, genuinely occupied, genuinely living a life that is rich and interesting and fulfilling with or without him. There is a version of a woman that men find utterly fascinating. She is warm when she's with you, but she doesn't need you to complete her day. She lights up around you, but her life doesn't revolve around you. She's present when she's there, really present, but she also has places to be, things she cares about, a world of her own that doesn't bend and reshape itself around your schedule. And that woman, she is intoxicating to be around, not because she's playing a game, but because she is genuinely living. Think about why this works psychologically. When a person has no mystery, when you can predict their every move, when you know they'll always be there no matter what, when they've essentially communicated that you are the center of their universe, there is nothing left to discover. There is no anticipation. There is no wondering. And attraction at its core is fueled by wondering. It's fueled by that slight uncertainty, that sense that this person has a whole interior world that you haven't fully accessed yet. The moment that wonder dies, attraction starts to cool. Not because love isn't real, but because love and attraction are not the same thing. And that's a distinction this channel talks about a lot, because conflating the two is one of the most common mistakes people make in long-term relationships. Love can deepen even as attraction fades. But in the early stages and even in the middle stages of a relationship, attraction needs to be sustained. And one of the most powerful ways to sustain it is to remain, in some sense, a world unto yourself, to have things going on, to be in pursuit of your own dreams, to be, frankly, a little bit busy, genuinely busy, not performatively busy. There is a difference, and he will know the difference. I'll give you an analogy that my fitness friends will appreciate. You know what happens when you go to the gym consistently? When you're showing up every day, pushing yourself, growing, getting stronger, people notice. And not just physically. There's an energy about someone who is actively in pursuit of their best self. There's a radiance, a sense of momentum. That same energy exists when a woman is genuinely invested in her own life, her friendships, her career, her creative pursuits, her physical health, her spiritual growth. She walks differently. She talks differently. She carries herself in a way that says, I have a life and it's a good one. And that, I'm telling you, is more attractive than any text message strategy or withdrawal tactic could ever be. The third angle I want to explore is what silence actually communicates. And this is where it gets really interesting. So stay with me. We live in a world of constant communication, text, voice notes, reaction emojis, Instagram stories, TikTok comments, DMs. We are more connected than any generation before us, and paradoxically, more emotionally shallow than we've ever been. Because when everything is said, nothing has weight. When you respond to everything immediately, your responses lose meaning. When you're always available, your presence becomes ordinary. And ordinary things don't inspire longing. They don't inspire pursuit. They don't make someone lie awake at night thinking about you. Here's something most people don't want to acknowledge. The women that men think about the most are not the women who gave them the most attention. They are the women who felt like a rare experience. The women who showed up fully when they were there, who laughed deeply, engaged genuinely, made the moment feel alive, and then went back to their lives without turning every quiet moment into an interrogation of the relationship status. Those women live in the mind. They take up real estate in the imagination. And it's not because they were cold or difficult, it's because they were free. They were free in themselves, and freedom is irresistible. Now, here's the counterintuitive truth that I want to land with you on this point. Silence, real silence, intentional silence is not the absence of communication. It's the fullest form of it. When you stop over-explaining yourself, you communicate confidence. When you stop justifying your feelings in every conversation, you communicate self-trust. When you don't immediately respond to every emotional provocation, you communicate that you are not controlled by fear. And all of those things, confidence, self-trust, emotional groundedness, are qualities that men find deeply attractive in a woman. Not because men want a woman who doesn't care, but because those qualities signal strength. They signal someone who knows who she is. And a person who knows who they are doesn't abandon that knowing for the sake of someone else's approval. I want to tell you about a client, and I'm keeping details vague to protect her privacy, but she came to me about 6 months into a relationship that had started absolutely on fire and then cooled dramatically. He was distant. He was inconsistent. He was giving her breadcrumbs, and she was treating them like a full meal. She was responding instantly to every text, accepting last-minute plans, shrinking her needs to fit into whatever space he was willing to give her. And she came to me asking, how do I make him want me the way he used to? And I told her, the first thing we need to do has nothing to do with him. We need to rebuild your relationship with yourself. Because right now you are broadcasting a signal, a very clear signal that says your attention is more important to me than my own self-respect. And he's receiving that signal loud and clear. So we worked on it. She started saying no, not dramatically, not angrily, but genuinely. She started filling her time with things that mattered to her. She got intentional about her friendships, her health, a creative project she'd been putting off. She stopped picking up the phone the moment it buzzed. She stopped being immediately available. And she stopped, this is the key one, she stopped making him the centerpiece of every day. And within 3 weeks, the dynamic had shifted completely. He was texting first. He was making real plans. He was showing up the way she'd been wanting him to show up for months. Not because she played a game, but because she became, again, the woman she was when they first met. The woman who had a life, the woman who didn't need him to complete her, the woman he found fascinating in the first place. Oh, let's move into the fourth angle now. And this one is about the difference between the chase and the catch. Because I think there's a fundamental misunderstanding about what men are actually responding to when they pursue a woman. A lot of women here make him chase you, and they think it means act disinterested, be hard to get, keep him guessing whether you like him or not. And that is not what I'm talking about. That kind of behavior isn't attractive. It's exhausting. And it doesn't build attraction, it builds insecurity, which can create obsession, yes, but obsession and love are very different things. One of them is rooted in fear, and the other is rooted in genuine admiration and desire. You don't want someone obsessing over you because they can't read you. You want someone pursuing you because they can see clearly what you are, and they know they'd be a fool to let you slip away. So what is it that actually triggers the pursuit instinct in a man? And I want to be nuanced here, because men are not monolithic, but there are some consistent psychological patterns worth understanding. Men are, at a deep level, wired to find value in things they work toward. This isn't about making things artificially difficult. It's about not eliminating the natural effort that comes with building something meaningful When a woman is too immediately available, when there is no process of discovery, no gradual revealing, no sense that she is something precious and carefully guarded. A man's nervous system doesn't register the relationship as something valuable. Not consciously, but subconsciously the message lands. This came too easily. Easy things get taken for granted. That's just human nature. It doesn't make men bad, it makes them human. Think about it like this. Imagine someone handed you a diamond in a parking lot and said, "Here, take it." Would you value it the same way as a diamond you saved up for, researched carefully, and went to real effort to acquire? Of course not. The effort is part of what makes something feel worth having. This is not a comment on a woman's worth. Her worth is absolute and inherent. This is a comment on human psychology and how perceived effort shapes perceived value. And when you understand that, you stop taking it personally. You stop thinking, why doesn't he appreciate what he has? And you start thinking, have I created the conditions in which appreciation can grow? Now, here is the thing I want you to sit with, the thing that takes this from a dating strategy to something genuinely transformative. The goal is not to make him chase you as a performance. The goal is to become a woman who is genuinely worth pursuing. And there is a world of difference between those two things. One is a mask. The other is a metamorphosis. And you can feel that difference from the inside when you're performing unavailability. There's a tension in it, a calculation, an anxiety about whether it's working. But when you're genuinely invested in your own life, genuinely at peace with yourself, genuinely okay with the possibility that he might not step up because you know your life will still be full and rich and good, there is a stillness in that, a groundedness, and that energy, you can't fake it. You can only grow into it. Now let's talk about the fifth angle, because I've been talking a lot about what to do, and I want to make sure we balance this by talking about the man's experience in all of this. Because understanding what's happening on his side of things is just as important as understanding what's happening on yours. Here's something men very rarely admit out loud, and I'm going to say it plainly because I think it's important. Most men, when a relationship becomes too easy, too predictable, too certain, they begin to feel what I can only describe as a quiet restlessness. It's not that they don't care. It's not that they don't love the person they're with. It's that something in their nature requires the feeling of having won something, of having earned something. And when that feeling disappears, when there's nothing left to work toward, no version of her that he hasn't fully accessed yet, no sense that she's still in some small way choosing him each day, that restlessness grows. And it starts to look like distance, disengagement. Sometimes, unfortunately, it leads him elsewhere, not because she wasn't enough, but because he stopped feeling like he was showing up for anything. I'm not saying this to excuse that behavior. I'm saying it to explain it, because understanding why something happens is the first step to changing the dynamic before it reaches a crisis point. Here's an analogy that might land with the sports fans in the room. Think about an athlete who gets to the championship. They work, they grind, they sacrifice, they earn it. And then they win. And the season after, for a lot of athletes, there's a slump because the hunger that drove them has been satisfied. The mountain has been climbed. And now what? The best athletes know how to find new mountains. The best relationships work the same way. There's always something new to discover, new heights to reach, a new version of each other to fall in love with. And the woman who understands this, who keeps growing, keeps evolving, keeps becoming, she remains a new mountain, not because she's hiding herself, but because she is genuinely in motion. She is genuinely alive in herself. And that kind of woman doesn't lose a man's attention. She holds it, deepens it, and over time converts it into something that looks a lot less like a chase and a lot more like devotion. So let me pull this all together for you, because I want to leave you with something concrete, something you can carry with you after this video ends. The silent power move we've been talking about today is not a tactic. It is a state of being. It's the state of being a woman who knows herself well enough to know that her peace, her time, and her energy are genuinely precious. A woman who doesn't perform distance, she lives fully. A woman who doesn't fake unavailability, she has real things going on that she genuinely cares about. A woman who doesn't strategically go quiet, she simply chooses not to narrate every thought and emotion to someone who hasn't yet earned that level of access. And the reason this works, the reason men respond to it, the reason it shifts dynamics so powerfully is not because it's manipulative. It's the truth of who a high-value, self-aware woman actually is. And men who are worth having recognize that truth instinctively. They feel it and they rise to meet it. Not all of them, not immediately, but the right ones do. And that's ultimately what this is about. Not forcing a man to chase you, but becoming so clearly, genuinely remarkable that the right man would be a fool not to. The question I want to leave you with today is this: are you in pursuit of him, or are you in pursuit of yourself? Because I promise you, the one that makes him chase you is the second one. Always. If this video resonated with you, I want to hear from you in the comments. Tell me what part hit the hardest. Tell me what you're going to start doing differently. Tell me what question is sitting in your mind right now, because I read these comments and they shape what we talk about next. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Love Psychology Secrets. Give this video a like. Share it with someone who needs to hear it today, because the right understanding at the right time genuinely changes lives. I'll see you in the next one.